This show is intended for mature audiences. Topics of adult content, triggers, and explicit language may be discussed with or without warning. All thoughts and opinions belong to our hosts and do not reflect the original creator's own intentions. Spoilers for the book will be discussed, and while most discussion will revolve around the picked book, we do not guarantee there will be no spoiler warnings for other books or series. Listener discretion is advised. Harriet and Wynne have been the perfect couple since they met in college. They go together like salt and pepper, honey and tea, lobster and rolls. Except now, for reasons they're still not discussing, they don't. They broke up 6 months ago, and they still haven't told their best friends.
Which is how they find themselves sharing the largest bedroom at the main cottage that has been their friend group's yearly getaway for the last decade. Only this year, Harriet and Wynne are lying through their teeth while trying not to notice how desperately they still want each other. Because the cottage is for sale and this is the last week they'll have together in this place, they can't stand to break their friends' hearts, and so they'll play their parts. After years of being in love, how hard can it be to fake it for one more week in front of those who know you best?
Welcome to Biblio Madness, a podcast for book lovers where we discuss our current and favorite reads. I'm your host, Laken.
And I'm your host, Rachel. This week, we're discussing and diving into the much anticipated new Emily Henry novel, Happy Place. Okay, opening into our first opinions of the book. Now, normally when we're together, we will share our opinions through text messages. In the middle of the night or in the middle of the day, when one of us is at work, one of us will get a text message saying what we think. We have decided for the podcast, if it's not a book that we haven't already read, we're not sharing our opinions and thoughts to each other until we film and we record.
Yeah, this is purely organic of us talking about this. Um, we haven't discussed it at all.
Yeah, I think we've talked about it for maybe 30 seconds, and that was about it. Because then we were like, no, don't share. We'll
Hold it in.
we'll wait to the podcast, and we'll talk about it then. Because we need all of the content that we can get, all of the feels, all of the first reactions to everyone's opinions. Now, for me, diving into this book, I have read a lot of romances. I'm a big Emily Henry fan. I was very excited and anticipating this book. I was one of the generics. I don't think Laken knew Emily and Henry until I introduced her to you, or you knew about her.
I didn't even know her until you introduced me to Book Lovers, which I read previous. I read it previous to this one. Like, I think I read Fourth Wing in between, and that was it. So
Okay.
it was almost back to back, going from Book Lovers into Happy Place. Getting quiet again.
I see it.
So you introduced me to her, and I did. I was anticipating it too because I really really enjoyed Book Lovers, and it was very captivating, like the whole thing, and very comfy. It with saying that, going into Happy Place, I thought it was just me at first. Like, I thought that it was just a slow start for me, but uh
Yeah, if for those who can't see me right now, I'm shaking my head. So for me, I would agree with that completely. For like Book Lovers, I think was my first Emily and Henry book, and it is such a comfy small town read. It is so nice, it's cozy, you're in a bookstore. It's great. It's a perfect Emily and Henry book. And then I read People We Meet on Vacation, which was good, not as good as Book Lovers for me, but it was good. It was really really good. Now, I know everybody's cult classic is Beach Read. Everybody loves Beach Read. Now, I don't hate me, kind of DNF'd that book halfway through. I tried really hard to enjoy it, and I felt like it was a little cookie cutter. It's not as cookie cutter as some of things we've read, as some things I've read when it comes to romance. But like Book Lovers made me feel happy. It made me want to be in that town, in that small town, like Gilmore Girls. When I watch Stars Hollow, I want to be there. I want to see the bookstores. I want to go into the stores.
Falls.
It's so nice. It's so comfy. And I think for me, like when it comes to romances, I really like a comfy. I want to feel comfy.
Oh yeah, I like the comfy vibe. I like there has to be good chemistry too.
Yeah, banter is important to me. Very important. And I feel like in my first opinions in the opening with how Harriet spoke or how her character was portrayed in her speech was not that of somebody who's very bantery or very like
Right. She's so our first impressions of Harriet is that she's, kind of the what's the word I'm looking for?
I'm trying to think. I don't know. For me, it was very like surgical.
Yeah, which I mean, considering and if you read this book, she is uh going to school to become a brain
Yeah,
surgeon.
she's in her residency right now.
So, yeah, she's in residency. The book very opens up like starts and opens up with her going to her happy place, which
Yeah,
is this cottage on the beach in Maine, and one of her lifelong best friends from college picks her up. And then they don't talk,
yeah,
like, at all.
no talking.
Nothing. It's just the radio blaring.
Yep, the introduction to the friends was very intriguing. It was like nothing was happening, and they're all like, "We've been friends for forever," but we also haven't seen each other in years.
Right. Well, yeah, at least a year because they said
Yeah,
they did this annually. But I mean, as you read more into it, these people haven't talked to each other
at all.
since they last saw each other.
Yeah,
Really.
it's like they're friends at the cottage. That's where they go to
Yeah.
be friends, and if they're not there, they don't see, they don't talk to each other. You can see it in like the further we get into this conversation, you'll notice the more like these friends are more distant than we originally thought, and how we were introduced to the book.
Yeah.
It felt very different, and I will say it was a very different read. And if she was going for the surgical, the very what is I'm trying to think of the other word that they use, structured speech, like
Yeah.
it felt scripted. It,
It.
yeah,
That's a good word to put it. It did feel like it didn't feel like an organic friendship to me. Like it didn't feel very real life. Um. Honestly, not much about Harriet
yeah.
did.
I would agree with that. Harriet was such, I don't want to say boring character, but for me, she was just eh
She was a meh character. It was hard to get behind her. It was hard to care
about
about
yeah.
her and her problems because almost every single one of her problems would have been solved if she would have just talked to
Yeah,
someone.
like her speech is so unemotional.
Yeah,
You can't
that's a good word for
tell
it.
how she's feeling, and she's so scared of sharing how she feels. And I think that
True.
comes from
Just
like later in the book you find out a little bit about her past, but also like for me her past did not validate the way she was talking.
yeah, I didn't really feel like it validated very much either.
I'm gonna you're gonna hear that a lot probably. I feel like a lot of
Yeah,
things
that
don't
is actually
validate.
one of the notes I wrote down. Because the author explains some things at the very end of the book. After the acknowledgments, she has behind the book where she discusses like the why of
Yeah.
why she wrote it, and like there's a bit in there which I wrote down like way down in my notes.
Also, we all both you guys can't see it, but on the podcast have Happy Place, so we can reference to chapters, but the YouTube and everyone there can see what we're holding. So yeah, the back end of explaining why is so interesting, I feel like, and I don't know. I feel like this is we'll get to the rating, but like
Mhm.
there's a lot to unpack. There's a lot of interesting things that kind of could have or maybe did happen, and a lot of things that I wished would have happened.
Yeah, there's a lot of scenes and moments I was waiting for in this book that just they either happened and fell completely short or they didn't happen at all.
And it's also so fun to have the feeling of knowing that you felt the same, because I went
Yeah.
into this book anticipating a great read and being like, this is Emily Henry. This is one of the most anticipated books. I've heard booktubers, YouTubers, everybody, book talkers talk about this book and how great it was. And I was seeing everybody and I was like,
Yeah.
I don't feel the spark.
I thought it was me at first too, because like we said, we didn't discuss
Anything.
anything really. We had like a maybe 30 seconds on a phone call one day where we were like, "Is this book a little?"
Just like, are we do we like this? Cuz
Yeah, because I read probably what is going to be my top read of the year, Fourth Wing,
yeah.
right before it. So I thought just after the like, you know, how amazing that book was to me, I thought maybe it had ruined this book, but after hearing um, your thoughts on it, and I have also heard some other people's thoughts on it, that it fell short.
Yeah, it
for
definitely
what.
fell short for me too, especially in the opening. I couldn't. I tried really hard to connect. Like I read this book while I read this book in so many different places and had to pick it back up to
Mhm.
reread it for notes just because I was like, I don't feel like I fully connected. Um, no, we were talking about the intro and the lackluster, the high anticipation that
Yeah.
went down, and I was disappointed. I'm not gonna lie, little disappointed. I think I overhyped it for myself though, and I don't think that's the author's fault in any manner. I think
No.
I overhyped it, and I wanted a book lovers repeat, and I think it wasn't that.
Yeah, she set the bar high for me too, which unintentionally, of course,
Yeah,
but like reading book lovers and then coming into this, it was two different worlds, two different
two different, very very different worlds.
feels.
He went from a small town, a broke, a guy trying to fix his family's bookstore, to happy place, a
Right.
neurosurgeon as your main character, who is in her residency with with the male main character being someone who lives in Montana, and
Yeah.
then your place is at a friend's $6 million cottage.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, and it's and their backstory, which I get what she was going for to build like what's the anticipation of
yeah,
like figuring out what happened to them. I found it really annoying not knowing because these people have been together for what, eight
years,
years?
years.
8 years.
How can you be together for years and not be able to communicate
And
on
they
this
can't
level?
talk to each other about, like, well,
Yeah,
I mean, I get that it's scary to talk about, like, and being open and vulnerable with someone, but if you're in a relationship, a committed
yeah.
relationship, because they weren't even boyfriend and girlfriend, they
No,
were fiancés.
they were engaged. They were gonna get married, and he was at one point he was like, I would have married her on the spot. Like, how can you be at that level of commitment and not be able to be like, hey, I like you?
Yeah, I mean,
Just
we're
like, hey, I love you, by the way. Just don't forget I love you. Like, how do you forget to say I love you that
right.
much?
It's and that like that leads into one of the like the biggest points I had on this book was the miscommunication trope.
Oh my god.
And she even acknowledges it in the end of the book, like in the behind the book.
Yeah.
She acknowledges like, like just talk it out.
Just speak to each other.
And in some instances, I think the miscommunication trope can work. Like, I mean, a popular one which we just both recently read was from Blood and Ash.
Yes.
Miscommunication trope was like the whole
But
first half of the second book,
yeah, I would agree with
but
that.
it fit.
But it fit really well, and we'll talk about that book later, another
Yeah.
podcast. Because if we don't talk about it, I'm gonna freak out because I'm currently reading that series. She's read that series, and I am. I
Yeah.
need to give you back some of your books though, because I have finished some of them, and they need to
Yeah.
go back to you. But I am currently reading that, and I agree. The miscommunication in that was done really, really well, and I didn't hate anybody for it. I didn't want to
Right.
shake someone and be like, "What the frick are you doing? Just talk to each other.
Yeah.
It's not hard."
I honestly think this was one of the most frustrating miscommunication second chance romances that I've ever read.
And yeah, I agree with that. And I think it's really interesting that that's the route they went. Like, as
Yeah.
an author, picking that your next book is going to be a miscommunication trope
Yeah, like
was very intriguing.
she called it the comedy of remarriage when she was talking about the book. I don't really know much about comedy of remarriages. I don't care much for that.
Nope, me either.
Um, in most cases, I think that if you split up, it's probably for good reasons.
Yeah,
Um, and honestly, I might say something controversial here.
go
I
for it.
don't know if they should have ended up back together after all of that. Like,
Yeah, I agree. Like, I don't know. For me, I said a lot of things that happened didn't validate, and I
yeah, it
just didn't
didn't.
feel connected.
I 8 years of not being able to communicate to each other, and then just suddenly going to, oh well, okay, I'm
Yeah.
going to drop everything and go be with you.
It's like, why not? Why not? I'm gonna drop everything I'm doing, everything I've worked for.
Yeah, which I mean, I get that to an extent. Like if you're unhappy and it, don't stay in a job that makes you unhappy, but it just didn't feel thought through.
All right. So for the YouTubers, they can see that it's getting a bit dark, so I'm going to turn on a light so we can be a little bit more visible for them. I apologize, but we'll fix it later. But for the podcast, we're going to pause for just a second. We'll be right back. You can keep your headphones on. We're gonna just... This is yellow, but I can fix it in the editing.
Too yellow.
Oh, actually, JK is fine.
Yeah, most things, they look better on camera than they do.
Okay, yeah, it's fine.
The lighting, anyways, is what I mean.
We might also, I want to see what looks better from an editing purpose. If we want to do this light or do this bright light. So we're going to just pick up the phone. Turn this light off.
Yeah.
I don't want it up, but I want it up. Makes sense?
Mhm. Is it casting weird shadows?
No.
Okay.
That's what this light's for.
Yeah.
Okay, we're back. We're better. Okay, lights were fixed. Hello, phone. Hey, we're gone for 30 minutes though.
Hmm?
We've gone on for 30 minutes.
That's good. Well, I mean, we got a lot to edit, and we still have a lot to talk about, so.
And we still have a lot to edit. But yeah, that's
Well, the fact that we have a lot to talk about still
it's good.
is good, because the fact that we have a lot to edit means that we're not going to be. I think we'll be fine.
We'll be
I think
fine.
we'll hit it.
We'll hit it. All right, we're back. Hello, everybody. Sorry about that. Light is fixed. YouTubers can see us now. We're not blind. It was getting really dark. I'm not gonna lie. We forgot to turn on the lights in the prior because they're yellow, but it'll be okay. This also will probably get edited out. Either way, doesn't matter. Back to Happy Place. Back to where we were at. We just talked about our opening thoughts and opinions. We're gonna hit a little bit more pointed, probably. I feel like I'm talking really loudly. We're gonna fix that as well. Sorry. So miscommunication trope is where we were at. Second chance romance and red flags. So throughout the story in the beginning, you get to meet Harriet, you get to meet their friends, you get to see them come to their happy place, the place they talk about the most. When they come into that location, something happens. The plot twist,
Yeah.
big thing that nobody was expecting
Right.
was the situation where she walks in and
her ex-fiance's there.
we love it.
Surprise! We weren't gonna tell you or warn you that
Well,
or anything, but they didn't. Actually, that would be a complete. Well, it would be a complete spoiler for the book.
yeah, you got a
'Cause-
disclaimer. Sorry if you
Yeah.
sorry if you haven't read it.
So at first,
Yeah.
you know, we think that this is okay because they don't know that they're split up.
Yeah, which like their friends don't know they split up. Their friends invited both of them thinking, "Hey,
Yeah.
we're going to do a really cool thing because we have two friends. One lives in Montana, one lives in
They're in this long distance relationship.
long
It'll be
distance.
so sweet to reconnect
They
them.
see each other once a month.
Yeah.
So like not often. So like let's bring them together. Let's put them in the biggest room, the fanciest, the honeymoon suite, if we may say.
Yeah, it was definitely meant to be a
Yeah,
honeymoon suite.
definitely.
No privacy at all.
Oh yeah,
in that room.
the bathroom situation. Sorry, I
Mhm.
would be uncomfortable with my husband. We're both married. I have been married to Caleb for almost 3 years now, and he still will not pee in front of me. Like he can pee sitting down, but he cannot pee standing up. He's getting called out right now. I could not imagine being in a bathroom
See,
that's just completely open.
The great thing about this is like we know this. My husband is your brother.
Yes.
So you know how he is.
Oh, yeah.
You know that does not apply to.
No, my brother. We'll throw so many people under the bus. It's fine.
It'll
My
probably
brother
mainly be our
grew up
husbands.
just like even at a young age, just running around naked, just from the bathroom to his bedroom, completely butt naked, running across the hall. And then I married my husband, who is the most conscious person when it comes to being like naked and going to the
Yeah.
bathroom, which I get. I'm samesies, and that's why I feel how I feel about the bathroom. I don't like it. I would like a closed off bathroom. I feel like it's a little weird.
See, we would totally be your nude neighbors. You'd look out the window and there would be us in the other window.
That's great though. It's great that you could have that. Like I'm not. I can't do it. I personally like my privacy. I like to be able to poop in peace. I like pooping in peace is needed. I'm sorry. I would like close doors. No one can see me. I go to the bathroom. I do my business. I leave like it never happened.
Yeah, as
as a mom,
as a mom too, like that doesn't happen. I literally have a picture of my Rowan, which is my son. For those of you who don't know, he's a year and a half old now. But I have a picture of him sitting at my feet in the bathroom because that's just what it is for me
That's
now.
the life of a mom. See, I'm a mom of dogs, so if I go to the bathroom, my dogs come in there with me.
Yeah, you probably still don't get
and
any
that's
privacy.
only if my husband's not in the house. Will I leave the door open for the dogs to come in there, or
Yeah.
I'll let the dog to go in there with me. But I will not. No. Just no. I have no kids. I don't need that. I don't need that in my life. That can be all. That can be yours to keep for forever. Even if I have a kid, I'm gonna be like, no.
Yeah, there's no privacy at all when you're a parent.
Yeah, that's
at least at this age. When they're in the like baby and toddler stage, there's
yeah.
no
Now
privacy.
imagine being in a bedroom with somebody who's your ex-fiance that your friends don't know about, like ex-fiance of 6 months, and being told to go to the bathroom in front of them.
Okay, and so this is where I greatly, greatly differ from Harriet. I mean, the reason that they don't want to tell everybody and that they play along with this whole ruse is because their friends are getting married.
Yeah, Sabrina and Parth
yeah.
are getting married, which also we need to shout out the couples really quickly. You have Wynn and Harriet, you have Sabrina and Parth, and then you have Cleo and Kimmy, which I'm not gonna lie, I'm a Cleo and Kimmy fan out of the friend
Cleo and Kimmy
group.
were the least problematic, all of these
the
characters.
least red flags, and I would like a book about them. That would
Yeah.
have been greatly appreciated. I want to know about their farm. I want to know about that life. I didn't get that. We got Harriet and Wynn, which was not a win for me.
It was a mess.
It was a hot mess.
A train wreck.
And maybe some people relate to that. Maybe people relate to not being able to just openly say, I'm a very blunt person. You will find that out very quickly. So for me, the miscommunication is just not something that's relatable. Maybe that's why I didn't like the book as much as I thought I would.
Yeah, see, I think I see myself a little bit in the fact of the people pleasing that Harriet has. She doesn't want to ruin her friend's, vacation, her last week at the cottage that means so much to her, or, her upcoming wedding.
Yeah.
I still would have told her.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I would have been like, is there some other way we can like arrange this? Like, we don't have to make it a big thing, and I'll be friendly and like, we can still have our solidified friend group. I can't be
in the same
a bedroom.
Yeah. I think
with my ex-fiance.
One thing that led them staying together was like when we went back, and I think this was like not even halfway through their book. It was like a few chapters when they were talking about the relationship of how Wynn and Harriet met and how they were roommates and everything like that. About the fact that when they told Sabrina and Parth and Cleo that they were dating, that they weren't allowed to break up.
Yeah, we found. I think it was maybe halfway, maybe not quite halfway, like you said. Yeah, Sabrina and Parth were joking. And this takes place in the past. The book is written in two different timelines.
Yeah.
It's written in the current, present, and then
Happy Place.
Happy Place, which is like it starts out from her being in college and leads up to current events.
I think Happy Place is just all of the happy moments. So like in life, and this is a little bit of a tangent, but we'll go on it just to get the point across. In life, we have a lot of ups and downs. We have a lot of happy moments, a lot of sad moments, and this was trying to portray all of the happy moments that she experienced in her life, what she considered happy moments, compared to current life, realistic moments of truth, like heartbreak, things that she had to face that she didn't want to face because she was an escapist. Like, and that part, trying to escape from reality, is something that I personally don't like to do.
Oh, see,
But, like, I'm a reader, and I say I don't like to do that, but, like, I like going into books and
yeah,
seeing the reality of it.
I I myself, I think, am an escapist,
Yeah.
and it's something that like I can recognize.
That's good, it's fine.
I
Caleb's an
can
escapist, I get
recognize
it.
that, like I like to get away from real life. But also I think the problem with Harriet is it's not just like escaping into a fantasy world
Yeah.
or a TV show or anything. She is living in her past, what she considers, I guess you would say, like her golden years,
Yeah. I would consider them,
her
like,
happy
golden years,
place.
her happy
Yeah.
place, everything that she considers good. And I think that's so interesting for
Yeah.
me to like try to pick out the happy moments of my life because I'm the opposite. I'm the like if I'm gonna tell a story, I'm gonna go back to like the bad moments. I'm gonna go back to like the life changing moments, not just the happy moments. Because for me, it was really hard to find happy moments or a happy place.
Right.
So
Same. I mean, yeah, maybe that's why I turned to like escapism so much. But like, um, a big thing I think, because we don't find out a lot about Harriet's past until later on in the book, in the um, in the back timeline when she's discussing, like, leading up to the events of why,
yeah, I
why
think
her happy place turned not happy,
yeah,
essentially. Um, but they raised a really interesting question very early on in the book, on page 67, actually. Their friends are all sitting around, and this is like years ago,
yeah,
in the past, and she's reflecting on this. And the question they ask is, if you could have another life entirely separate from this one, what would you do with it? And like everyone's answers were like, oh, I'd, you know,
trying to remember. I think Leo said she would just run a farm.
yeah. Cleo said she would run a farm, but at that point she was an art major,
Yeah,
or something, like a fine arts
yep,
major, and she had like big aspirations for
yeah,
it. Which, later in the book, we do find out that she did do that. She went
yep,
to that other life and became a farmer,
yep.
and is incredibly happy in doing so.
Yep, her and Kimmy again. I want the farm book, Emily. If you can,
Yeah.
if you can give me that, I would be very happy. I want a Cleo and
We
Kimmy
want a
book.
Cleo and Kimmy spin-off.
Oh yeah, I
Cause
would like that spinoff. I want to know their chemistry because we don't get as much of like their
no,
character buildment and their relationship buildment.
we
The
get more of even Sabrina and Parth
parts,
and
yeah,
their backgrounds than we do Cleo and Kimmy.
yeah. Like Kimmy just got thrown into the friend group. Like she was not part of it in the beginning because they were all roommates for college and then they went
Yeah.
to Columbia and then they all went to New York. But Kimmy just got thrown in, and I felt like it was very strange to have her just thrown in the mix. And I was like, "What's the story for that
Yeah,
one?"
I mean, the only thing they really said about her was that she was the missing
Yeah,
piece. And
but
that was like all they gave us.
yeah, they were like, she was needed, but like, what happened? How
Right.
did she become your missing piece? But back to the question that you brought up: if you could have another life entirely separate from this one, what would you do?
Yeah.
What would you do?
What would I do?
What would you
Which
do?
I already know this question because it was what I was going to do. I think the life I'm living is my separate life.
Okay, okay.
Um,
What was your original
the
path?
original path, for which, if you don't, obviously you guys don't know us very well yet.
No.
We are both really young considering where we are in life.
Oh, we didn't even tell you our ages. Do we need to do that?
we're
Nah.
both we're both like in our early 20s.
Yep.
Um, I have a kid and a kid on the way, and you're a well aspiring, like, business owner, and like you have a house
Yep.
and all of this stuff going for you, and like, I don't know, I feel like we've done pretty well in life considering how old we are.
I forget how old I am, and then I also forget that I am a month older than you. We're a month and a day apart. Just a
Yeah.
month and a day. Not anything. A month and a day. She's
Exactly.
0303. I'm 0202.
Yep.
It's super fun. No, it's very strange to think about like the life path for me because this is my second path too. This wasn't my original choice.
So weird to think
For like
this.
the first thing I wanted to do was go to art school in New York City. And then I ended up meeting Caleb, and he lives here where we live currently. It's a small town. And we got married and we
Yeah.
stayed here, and I became super focused. Well, I was super focused since I was a child, but I became hyper focused on supporting myself and getting out, and almost instead of being an escapist in escaping to video
Right.
games or books, I escaped real life.
Yeah.
And I created the life I wanted. So I made my realistic life my escape, and I got a house when I was 19. I did all of my finances. I supported myself. I focused on businesses. I focused on finances, stocks. I just really got focused on that versus what I originally wanted to do in another life. There's probably a multiverse where I am in New York, struggling artist, trying my best.
Eating cup of noodles every day.
Oh yeah, cup of noodle, getting drinks out of guys and getting dinners paid for on Tinder dates. Yeah. There's a version of me that's in 26, just somewhere doing their best to live in New York, hopefully not homeless. Yeah. I don't know how good of an artist I would have been.
Right. You're a great artist. Don't discount yourself.
In this realm.
Yeah, for me, like, what I was originally planning to do with my early 20s, which is where I was getting at about our ages, is I planned to travel. Like, that's what I wanted to do. Me and my best friend wanted to buy a camper and just live in it and travel around the States. And then that didn't happen because I, typical romance plot, found a guy, fell in love, and wanted to settle down.
Yep. Well, the fun thing about this is, though we didn't choose those paths, and though those paths are closed for us now, you are a writer, so you get to write those books if you want. You can write a book about going on adventures with your best friend and doing those things still. It's not like it's out of the cards forever. For me, I'm not a writer. I try. It's not good. I'm dyslexic. It doesn't help. Reading and writing is just not my forte, but I try my hardest. I can learn new languages. That I'm good at. But for that aspect, I feel like it's very different to see the paths that you can choose so many paths in life. And being asked that question, I feel like is such a hard hitting question to like who are you as a person? Yeah. And like where I am today, I would never choose a different path. I am so happy where I am. Like we all struggle. I know you struggle as a mother of two. No, almost now. Almost. You have a lot of toddlers running around. You have a lot of like your husband's gone all the time because he's working, and like for me, Caleb is working. Just life hits, but like I would never choose a different life. I enjoy my lows. I enjoy my highs. I don't like. I get the question, but I also just don't resonate with it.
Yeah, same. I like I said, like I wouldn't choose to live a separate life from this one. Even though, like like you said, it has its ups and downs, but it has
its happy moments. It has its happy places, and I feel like Cleo, we love you, Cleo, brought this out and was like, I want to be a farmer, and she did it.
Yeah, she did. She ended up following that path, which was really great. And then she doesn't even discount. I'm pretty sure, anyways. I don't think she discounts the possibility of still continuing to do art later down the road. Like they're doing what they're doing right now, but it's not like I'm never going to do this again.
Yep. I agree with that. And Harriet and Wynn's answers.
So Wynn, we find out, is not happy. Like, this is our first glimpse at Wynn not being happy. Yeah. At where he is. Because they're in New York at this point, I think.
And doesn't he just, like, blatantly say where he wants to go?
He just says that he wants to have lived his life in Montana. Because his thing was, he was raised in a small
Montana, yes. I did... Laken brought up the question. We had a little bit of technical difficulties. We'll come back. So, Laken, yes, I did used to live in Montana. I lived in a very small town called Big Timber. I don't live there anymore. I'm very far away from there, so don't try to find me there. You're not going to. But it was a very small town. It was so small that everyone that when we moved there knew my name before I moved there. And I came from a very big city because I'm originally from Minnesota. So I lived in Minneapolis. And that was my hometown. That was my city. That was my place. I grew up there. I loved it there. And then my parents moved to Montana to live with my grandparents. Again, none of us lived there. Don't come after us. But when we lived there, it was so, so small. Everyone knew my name. It scared me so badly. So I can't imagine wanting to live in Montana full time and just go back. It was beautiful. Absolutely stunning. Mountains, gorgeous. It was flat. It was really, really pretty. But it was just so many no people. We're back. We're going to test some vocals real quick. Make sure we can hear Laken again.
Check.
Again, first podcast, we always have technical difficulties. So we were talking about the question being if you had another life. We kind of went on a tangent, which was going to happen, but
Right.
The thing that we were getting to is that Wynn's answer was, I want to go back to Montana, which he knew what he wanted. And
he didn't even sound like he really ever wanted to leave. He
Yeah.
just wanted to try being out from his hometown.
I think why he was away from his hometown and his whole purpose of being away from his hometown was because of Harriet. I think he left because of Harriet.
Well, we later find out in the book when finally starts to, like, we finally start hearing them talk.
Yeah.
He does point out that his sisters, he has two sisters, both of which he felt were like really, really smart and really accomplished and had big things in life to, accomplish. He felt pushed by their excellence to go do something which he thought was excellent, because he didn't think what he was doing was. He thought he's very self-deprecating.
Yes. I would agree with that.
Incredibly self-deprecating.
Because in current real life, he's living with his mom.
Yeah, taking care of her because she has Parkinson's.
Yes. I think.
Which is really sad. It's terrible. But
very sad story, and he's back there living with them while his sisters are doing whatever their fancy jobs are doing. But I feel like part of his reasoning, though, even besides the fact that he wanted to match it, was he stayed because of her, even though he was unhappy. And I feel like this whole book, speaking of the happy place, is focusing on things they were unhappy with, and Harriet doesn't know what she wants.
No, she doesn't.
At all.
And her answer to this question, which we have been discussing, of if you had a separate life, what would you do with it? She didn't have an answer.
No, because she doesn't even know what she's doing with the life she has.
Well, and we find out that the whole reason she has done this with her life is to make her parents proud.
And that's so sad.
It is sad. She feels like she has to work for their love because of the problems her older sister had with them, that she never wanted to be a problem. She wanted to be able to be bragged about.
Yeah. And honestly, Eloise, we're here for you. I validate. I'm with you. Okay,
oldest. Well, you're not the oldest.
No, I'm not
got
the oldest.
Oldest daughter syndrome. I relate to Eloise a little bit. It took me a long time to. I might have, I do relate to Harriet in being a people pleaser to some extent. Yeah. But in more recent years, I've learned to stand up for myself and to be a little bit more blunt.
I think as a character versus like my personality, and the reason I probably don't relate to this book is because I'm so different than Harriet on so many different levels. I am blunt, I am the youngest, and I am crazy when it comes to stuff. Like, I don't deal with other people's shit. So when I see it come to life in her, I'm just like, what are you why are you doing that? Why are you choosing that?
I think the fact that I related to some of that is one of the reasons I found it so frustrating, is because although I do see parts of myself in her in the people pleasing aspect, I wanted to grab her, shake her, and be like, just say what you want for once.
Yeah, the whole time, as a person who says what they want a lot, and I'm so used to saying what I want, I was like, why are you doing what you're doing? Why?
Yeah.
Who are you helping? You're not helping yourself. You're not helping anybody else. You're not communicating with anybody. It just, for me, she needs to figure out what she wants in life, and she doesn't know, and she's lost.
It was a big thing that she doesn't know.
Yeah.
And she didn't even realize that she didn't know what she wanted.
And she needed to take that next step.
Halfway through the book.
Yeah. It took us both a very long time when we just came to this conclusion while fixing our technical issues.
Yeah.
That we both marked a part in the book where we were finally like, something's happening. For me, that was page 254, and I was like, this is kind of where I started to get intrigued, just a little bit. And I think yours was even farther than that.
Mine was page 288. It was chapter 29, and it's the point where Harriet and Wynn finally break down and start talking to each other.
Yeah.
After 8 years.
So long.
Of repressed emotions, because they don't want to infringe on the other person's happiness.
Which both of them are so unhappy with their happiness that they're trying to push it on others.
But
they want others to be happy.
Their entire relationship was them being unhappy, but pretending that they were happy for the sake of the other person.
Yeah, which is so confusing.
Which leads me to my next point. As a huge red flag.
Yeah, that's a huge, huge red flag. Do not put your happiness should not be based on another person.
No, it
ever.
shouldn't.
It should be based on yourself.
And if you're not happy, you should both have the grace to sit down and talk about it. Yeah. And be like, this isn't working.
You should also have the ability to tell yourself, like, I'm not happy.
Yeah.
Look at another person and be like, I'm not happy. It's not your fault that I'm not happy.
Right.
It's nothing to do with you. It's me personally. I need to figure out what's going to make me happy. I'm going to figure out if it's my career, if it's my relationship, what it is that's making me personally unhappy.
I think another reason that this was so... Ooh, I just hit that. Another reason this was so frustrating is because these people are in their 30s.
Yeah.
Which, I know that, like, some people, it takes them that long to figure it out. But I feel like by 30 years old, they should have had enough self-awareness.
Yeah, I think it's a maturity.
This.
Yeah.
But then again, I'm not in the group of people where I have made it to my 30s and I realized that I wasted my life on something I didn't want.
Yeah. And that's fair. We're in the beginning of our early 20s again. So we're in the figuring it out stages. Trying things out, being experimental, doing things, seeing if we like it, seeing if we don't like it. But I feel like by the time I'm 30, and again, this is my opinion because I know ageism is such a crucial thing in the day and age we live. Like, you're expected to have kids, you're expected to have a house, you're expected to do all these things by the time you're 30. That is not realistic for any human, especially in today's economy, but we're not going to get into politics. But in that aspect, I feel like at least by the age of 30, you should have the mindset to know to communicate. And I think that's the part that's surprising to me is that they are so concerned about being people pleasers that they're not even willing to advocate for themselves.
Right. And back again to the fact that it's not just Harriet and Wynn.
Yeah.
It's every character in this book.
Yeah.
This entire friend group, all of them, which we find out, have their own problems on this vacation.
And their own traumas.
And none of them have sat down for the whole week that they're together. No one has sat down and talked about their life or what's going on.
Since, like, the beginning of the trip to Cleo and Sabrina were just snipping at each other to do with the whole freaking visitation to the farm. Like, what is that?
Cleo is the only character I feel like that has reached this self-realization.
Yeah.
Because she even complains to Harriet. At one point, they end up watching, like, a 5-hour movie marathon, and she's like, we could have talked during this time. Like, I haven't seen you guys in a year.
Yep.
We wasted 5 hours of our time watching movies.
Yep. I remember them going to the movie theater, and then at one point, Wynn got, like, a bunch of candy for her. And I thought that was, like, a cute moment, but also, like, come on. Like, okay, you went to go get something, and you just bought every single candy they had because you don't love this person, because you don't even like this person, because you can't communicate, oh, by the way, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
Like, what?
It was overall incredibly... Like, I know I've said this word so many times. It was just frustrating.
Frustrating and lackluster.
The one word I have for this book is frustrating. Because not even the friends knew how to communicate and talk to each other.
And I think that's a good, like, on a different note, because we've talked a lot about a lot of things we don't like. I think both of us are on the same page when it comes to this book. But I think something to like about this book is if the point of this book was to frustrate you, and a point of this book was to make you want to communicate how you're feeling and to advocate for yourself, this is a good book because it teaches you what not to do.
Yeah, and if you were a people pleaser that has a hard time speaking up for yourself, read this book.
Or a person who doesn't know what they want to do with their life and they're so scared to step outside of their happy place. And I'm going to say this in the opposite way that it's been portrayed, but stepping outside of your happy place and being uncomfortable, being in a dark place, being in your unhappy place, because those are the moments you grow from as a person. You grow in struggle. You grow in failure. And once you make that step to go do something crazy, like maybe go do pottery.
Yes.
And maybe you find out that your thought of an unhappy place was actually your happy place.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important thing to think about in the part of the book. Like, a thing to like about this book and thing to take from the author was, like, you can realize as a person, and a lot of today, we have a lot of miscommunication. We have a lot of, I'm only going to speak behind a screen. I'm not going to talk to you in person.
Right.
that opinion of having a thought process and being able to talk and advocate for yourself is a good way to look at it.
Yeah, I didn't even think about
I
that.
didn't
That's
think about it either. I thought about it right now. I was like, hey, we could take a little bit of happiness out of this.
Yes.
Because, like,
I do think I started enjoying it more, not only when they started talking, but whenever Harriet started realizing what she wanted and
yeah.
realizing that what she liked wasn't something to be ashamed of.
Yeah. And I like that thought process of just thinking about what the book has made us feel. Because the book did its job. It made us feel something.
Yeah.
And that is what comes out of all of our arts, writing, art, poetry, anything that's a painting. You want to feel something. You want to come out of it feeling something. And I think this book did a good job frustrating people.
Right.
But what did you take out of that frustration? What did you take out of that miscommunication? What did you take out of this friend group? Like, now people probably who've read this book want to call their friends they haven't talked to in years.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be that friend group that only sees my friends once a year, and that's when we hang out and have fun and we're in our happy place. Who wants a happy place for 5 days out of
the whole year?
a whole year?
Yeah. I mean, and then that leads, like, another point I had was Sabrina.
Yeah.
Sabrina has essentially taken on the role of keeping this friend group together.
The mom of the group.
She even says it at one point when they all have a major fight towards the end of the book.
Mm-hmm.
Like, our peak of the book.
Yeah.
She even says, like, this friend group would have failed and fallen apart if I wasn't doing this. Which, she goes about things the wrong way. She's kind of manipulative about it, which we learn. Very manipulative about it. But, like,
Sabrina,
there was a bit of truth to that. Like, if she hadn't kept pushing, they probably would have all fallen apart.
Yeah, like, you always have that one person in the friend group that's always just there constantly and who's pushing your buttons. And we all need a Sabrina, but we all don't like a Sabrina.
No, I didn't care much for Sabrina's character, and especially we find out towards the end of the book at this major peak fight that Sabrina and Parth knew all along that Harriet and Wynn were broken up. They had planned this whole thing as, like, a parent trap kind of situation.
It's like, plot twist!
To get them back together. And I'm like, that is... First of all, like, that is so intrusive.
Manipulative, wrong, rude. But also, on the flip side, Sabrina and Parth knew that both of them weren't communicating.
Yeah, they did.
They were they knew that they were not talking to each other and that something happened to cause them not to talk to each other.
And Sabrina even, again, like I said, she's kind of the, you don't like her, but she says stuff that there's a point to it.
So I'm the Sabrina of the group. We learned it today at the moment.
I didn't say that.
It's fine.
Like you.
I'm the one who points out things that we don't want
for everybody.
No, Sabrinas aren't for everybody. If you don't like a Sabrina, I'm sorry.
But Sabrina says, even to Harriet, after this big fight, she confronts her about Harriet not knowing what she wants.
Yeah.
And saying, you just need to, figure out what you want and step up for it.
Yeah.
And Sabrina's whole confrontation to Harriet really spurs the finality of Harriet's character arc into realizing, like,
she's unhappy.
I'm unhappy. Yeah. Like, I do need to take a stand for myself and what I want. And what I want is win. And that's essentially, like, what she comes to a conclusion to. Like, she was not happy without him.
She realized that the career, the having everything, your parents' approval, wasn't what she needed to be happy. And I think it takes figuring out what it is. Like, losing what makes you happy is kind of what awoke her. Yeah. Like, how they always have those tropes where you have to take something they love away to realize what you're missing.
Yeah.
She needed that to be pulled away from her. She needed Wynn taken away from her for her to realize that she was pursuing something just for others' approval.
Yeah,
not pursuing what she wanted.
It was solely for other people, not even for herself.
It was just for her parents.
I think she picked the like, most prestigious,
Yeah.
most, like, braggable career she could go for.
I'm a neurosurgeon.
I'm a brain surgeon. It's
like,
fine.
that's cool. Like, that's great if that's what you love to do. But if you don't freaking love to do it, you're not bragging. You're just saying, hey, I'm smart enough to read text and do surgery. That's great. That's
Yeah.
great that you're that smart. But, like, is that what you're passionate about? Are you proud to say you're doing that? Are you happy to say you're doing that?
Yeah.
No.
And
You're
if
just
you're
making.
not, yeah. I'm
And
glad she came to the realization that she was not happy.
also, at the end of the book, and we'll skip to this part because I don't think it's that important. Her whole conversation with her parents, I've never been madder at parents before.
Oh,
In that
yeah.
chapter where they were just like, are you sure? Like, don't make any harsh decisions. We'll be there soon. Just let her make, like, be a parent is a guide. It is not there to tell your child
Right.
to have your child impress you. To put that pressure on somebody is just not okay.
I can see where I mean, like, I'm not defending them at all, but, like, I can see where they maybe thought she was making a rash decision.
Yeah.
Because this is so
Start.
un-Harriet-like to them. Like,
Yeah.
they have never seen her act like
But
this.
Harriet was playing a character her entire life.
She has.
She's been playing the perfect daughter.
Yeah, she's always been the under the radar.
Yep.
As to say, so they've never seen this behavior from her. So of course
she's
they're like,
not the
whoa,
Eloise of the group.
What is happening to you? Like, don't make any rash decisions. But
yeah.
to her, this isn't a rash decision, which
No.
we find out she's been unhappy
for a long time,
months,
think,
years, probably.
Yeah, for a very long time. I think she's probably been unhappy her whole life, besides when she's with Wynn, because she was trying to live in the shadow of what her parents' expectations were.
Yeah.
And that was so strong because of how much pressure they put on her.
It was, honestly, like, as a parent myself, it is heartbreaking
to see that.
To read what Harriet felt. She felt this pressure, this weight that she, like, had to be the perfect daughter because of all her parents sacrificed for her. And it's like, that is my biggest pet peeve.
Yeah.
To hear a parent say, like, I've done so much for you, like, this is it. It is not your child's job.
No.
You brought them into this world. It is your responsibility, regardless, to make sacrifices for them. Like, I would never
put that on your kid.
I have made sacrifices for my kids. I've sacrificed a career, but, like, I will never make them feel like they have to,
pay you back for it.
Pay me back for it.
Like, what is that?
I don't even know if they explicitly made her feel that way or if she just took on that burden externally.
For me, even if they didn't purposely do it, that was the perception and they never realized it. And the perception is so strong because whatever you do, whatever you say, whatever actions you put into forth, if they are perceived different than you intended, it does not matter what you wanted. It's not how it was taken.
Children are incredibly impressionable and incredibly observant.
And that also comes from, like, a management position. That's what happens with, like, if I've been in a leadership position and I worked as a manager for a big not fast food, but, like, big retail area, fast food kind of. And
worked for a big chain.
A big chain, very popular. And that had such an important thing, and that was something my leader taught me, was that perception is everything, because whatever is perceived is how you are seen, and that is your reputation. Your actions and your intentions are one thing, but how it's perceived is what is actually the action that's being put in place. Right. So if your team or if your kid thinks that you're dumb or thinks that you're not caring, it doesn't think you love them, then that is what you've done.
Right.
That is what your actions have shown. So you need to adjust your actions to be the correct perception of your intentions. Now that might be confusing and I apologize, but that is the reality of the world we live in, is perception is everything. That's why when we look at Instagram,
right, the
perception that they have the perfect life versus what reality is different. And that leads into the rest of the childhood trauma for the other characters and how their parents were.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and, because it wasn't just Harriet that had, parental trauma.
No.
Which hers wasn't from divorce. Harriet's parents stay together, but she obviously knows that they don't love each other. She doesn't quite believe in this love,
Yeah.
like this unconditional love, in which that is a stark contrast from which Wynn grows
Yeah.
up from.
Because I think there's a difference between unconditional love and forced love. And I think her parents are forcing love because they want to keep their reputations intact
Yeah.
for the community. They don't want to be known as the people that got divorced. They want to be known as the people that are a loving family with a neurosurgeon as a daughter.
Right.
And they are successful and they care so much about their pride that they don't care about the love.
Yeah. And it was damaging to Harriet to see that, because she knew that her parents didn't love each other.
Mm-hmm.
But they would not split up. But
No.
then you have, which in and of itself can be just as damaging as like divorce.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like giving someone the perception of love, but it's actually not love, gives them an expectation of what it should be versus what reality is.
I have a interesting take, maybe.
Yeah.
On Harriet's parents. So we find out that Cleo, her parents were divorced.
Yes.
But they kept in touch, and like, were able to work through things because they recognized early enough on that this wasn't working, and they didn't love each other anymore, so they knew to split. I wonder if Harriet's parents had taken that initiative to part ways when they realized they were both unhappy. Maybe they would have kept him. Maybe their relationship would have been better. Maybe they would have been, not depressed in this path of life that they'd chosen.
I think a lot of the time the stigma around divorce in the generation that this would have been, her parents, if she's 30 and we're talking about them being in their 50s or their 40s, divorce was so frowned upon that for their like status, it was just something they weren't allowed to do.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even in question. So from a kid's perspective, coming from
right,
a kid whose perspective is there, thinking it would be better for your parents to get divorced versus them stay in a relationship, like both things hurt.
right.
And having parents who their love doesn't seem how it is portrayed to everyone else,
right,
is almost fake. It sucks growing up in a home like that because you grow up thinking that that's what love is, and then you end up with somebody, if you do, and you make that mistake and you don't realize that that's not what love is, you end up in that same relationship.
I can agree with that a little bit. I mean, it's weird coming from having outside perspectives being like, everything's perfect.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh no, it's not.
It's really bad.
And I think that's how it is for a lot of people, but we just, you never realize it because, like I said, and you said, perception is everything.
Yep.
And everyone wants to be perceived as having their life together.
Yeah. I may look like I do. I don't. And I will say that out loud. Like, I'm not afraid. Like, I'm 99% wrong all of the time. I tell myself that 100%. This is something I've told my husband since I've met him, is I'm 99.9% wrong all of the time. Now, there is a chance, there's a 0.1% chance I'm right. And I'm willing to take the odds and be like, I will either learn and figure it out because I'm okay making mistakes and learning from them, or we're just going to deal with it.
My husband's calling me.
He probably wants you home. We can pause recording if we need to.
He just asked if I've left.
Nope. Well, we still have a lot to dive in. We want to go into characters. We want to go into childhood traumas. We're going to say this is maybe a good 3/4 the way in.
Yeah.
And then finish off tomorrow with our closing opinions.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay.
We've hit all of our points.
It's like we hit a lot of good things. We still have to talk about the ending, the airport. I have so many opinions about the airport.
On my notes. It's just in capital letters.
The ending. Oh my God, why? Just so many opinions there. And then we got to talk about Wynn's dad, which no one wants to talk about that. That's sad.
Yeah.
And then this whole thing that got portrayed in the beginning that we didn't even bring up, it was definitely part of those 288 pages about Wynn saying that Harriet left him for another guy that was just randomly thrown in there.
We completely skimmed over that.
That's because it wasn't even, it was a sentence. It was a
was
less than a paragraph.
Oh my
It was like
gosh.
two things. Are you with him? No, I'm not with anyone. Okay, cool. That was the end. What? You left her because you thought she cheated
Yeah,
on you?
it
Like,
was, and he even admits to it that it's like an excuse
yeah, I think it was literally.
to end things because he had, you know, you find out that he'd been unhappy for months and months and months.
Oh my god. I don't even see, like, it was so in the beginning of the book
Yeah.
that it wasn't even. Also, I just skimmed like 6 pages and I read Body Shot like 8 times. And just
Like half of this book felt like a fever dream. I don't remember.
like there was a rodeo and I forgot about the rodeo.
I have no recollection of a rodeo.
I don't even see it. And I know it was somewhere in the beginning, but it was just like,
They were in that cellar, I think.
yeah, they got trapped pretty quickly though.
Yeah.
We're trapped in. Okay. We're let's see. I'm gonna look in the book, see if we can find it, because I want to read the line because it was so little.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
I
about.
should have wrote it down. The grocery store scene, which we didn't even go into the grocery store stuff. The gladiators. It wasn't important. It's just not.
That was another, like, I think the intention of the author was to, like, flesh out this friend group, but it just felt completely unnecessary to me.
And also, like, with Sabrina and Parth knowing the whole time and putting them in the cellar and forgetting them there.
Yeah, forgetting them.
Yeah, and that's horrible. Wynn's terrified of.
Yeah, you find out that he has a, like, extreme claustrophobia.
122. Page 122, randomly. He goes, "Are you dating?" She says, "Are you dating someone?" The amusement melts off his face. "What the fuck, Harriet? Are you serious right now?" That's not an answer. His gaze wavers across my face. "What about you?" he rasps. "Are you with him?"
Yeah, with him.
Yeah.
With no pretext, no anything.
Nothing. And then this chapter only lasts literally a page and a half, and there's no more information given.
Until later. Like, we find out later in one of the flashback chapters what happens and who this him is. And it's not even, like, enough.
No.
Oh my gosh.
It's not enough to validate, but also why would we throw that in just randomly and not bring it up for another
Right.
100 and
another 100 or 200 pages?
Yeah, 100 or 200 pages later. It's not until the 300s that even comes up, I don't think.
It's not till the end till we find out. And then Wynn admits that it was an excuse.
To the point where you almost forgot that he brought it up.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't even, like, I almost forgot that it was even said. I was like, it was such a small sentence. I'm like, what are you even talking? Who's she with?
Yeah.
Like,
who's this him?
Who's this him? Is this some, like, they didn't talk, then I forgot about it for 100 plus pages.
Yeah.
So we'll dive into that when we get back.
Yeah.
About that whole person, strange human, because, like,
I can't even remember his name.
I can't even remember his name. I don't even remember any of that. That doesn't exist. Just like the rodeo, it didn't happen.
None of this happened. Towards the end of the book, Sabrina has this, like, big surprise for all of them. And they end up going and, doing it. And then they find out she wants them all to get matching tattoos, like, in memoriam of the cottage in this place. Cleo's very against it. And kicks off the fight of Cleo being like, calling her out and saying, you can't control us all. We can't all follow on your whims.
Yeah.
Not everyone can cater to you all the time.
Yeah. I feel like that also comes out of, like, this whole book. Cleo and Sabrina they've been at odds with each other.
Yeah.
It's not been good. Their friendship's not been great. Sabrina was mad about not being able to go to the farm.
Yeah.
And now you have Cleo like, dude, just stop. You don't know what's going on in people's lives. You don't Like,
Yeah.
anything could be going on that somebody couldn't get a tattoo for, but also just, like, may not want a permanent
Yeah, it's like
marking
you
on your
didn't
body.
ask us this. We
Yeah.
can't all just subject ourselves to this permanent decision.
Yeah, like, that's a permanent decision. My husband has wanted a tattoo forever, and he
Yeah.
hasn't gotten one because it's a permanent decision, and he's
Yeah.
very indecisive. So, I just hiccuped, and that was a weird hiccup, but, like, that could be for anybody.
Yeah, and so then like that of course snowballs into Sabrina like lashing out and
Yeah.
being like, "Well, none of you guys would still be talking. We wouldn't be talking. We wouldn't be
Yeah.
friends if it wasn't for me pushing."
And she said she was, like, holding the group together.
Yeah.
And, like...
Which there might be some truth in that because we already discussed about like the fact that Harriet and Cleo have been like, distant and
well,
no one's talking.
I was like, no one was talking anyways. Like, okay, we've talked about this friend group. Harriet is in her own world. Cleo and Kimmy are at a farm. And then you have Sabrina and Parth, who are doing whatever Sabrina and Parth do as lawyers.
Yeah.
And then you have Win just in Montana, making furniture, doing his own thing. None of these people have spoken to each other. It's just like, yeah, of course Sabrina's holding everyone together because she's the only one forcing them to do all of this, and they feel obligated to do it.
Yeah, for her happiness.
Yeah.
And so then that, snowballs. Harriet goes after her. This is where we have the big reveal that Sabrina and Parth knew all along that her and Win were broken up. And this was like the parent trap. Like, like I said earlier, get together.
And we're just like, why?
So, yeah, it's very manipulative of Parth and Sabrina. And I think even Parth, like, admits that. After the big fight, like the next morning, Harriet and Cleo, what's the word? They make up.
Yeah, I was like, they were talking.
They come to terms the next morning about the fight, and Cleo reveals the reason she doesn't want to get a tattoo.
Yep.
It's because her and Kimmy are expecting to have a baby.
Yes.
And that's also the big reason they didn't want Sabrina up at the farm, is because, this is a huge life-changing decision. They were afraid of it, like, changing their friend group. But they already had, like, a ton of baby stuff, so they didn't want Sabrina up there yet.
Yeah, to see all of it. Which makes sense if you're trying to hide it. But also, like, why is Sabrina so mad about not being able to visit a freaking farm?
I think it was a little bit misplaced. Like, I don't think she should have been that angry, but I also feel like it was a little bit of her just feeling like she was losing Cleo, and that she felt like Cleo didn't care, and that was not it at all. And if they had just talked about it,
if any of these characters just talked,
yeah, that's like the whole theme of this book. If you would just talk about your problems with the people you're friends with and close to, you'd probably have a lot less problems.
Just communicate.
Communication is key.
Everybody talk about your feelings.
Yeah,
and
so
do that communication thing where you speak words and don't hold it in.
If I'm not mistaken, everyone's pretty pissed at Sabrina after this.
Yeah.
Cleo and Kimmy are packing up to go back home, and Win is packing to go back to Montana that night, I think.
There's a lot that happened after
no one
that
actually
fight.
leaves. They actually decide to stay for the wedding, but like everyone's about to leave.
Yeah, everyone's like, we're done. Bye.
So we end up getting a really beautiful scene with the three girls, though. With Harriet, Cleo, and Sabrina. After Sabrina like takes off.
Yeah, because we talked
in a pouty fit.
We talked about, because like I feel like Kimmy, we love Kimmy because she's underrated.
She's
again.
An
non-problematic character. Kimmy. She and Parth and Win are like the guys of the group.
Yeah.
Like they're like, we don't have this much emotion.
Yeah,
like we have emotion, but we don't have this much emotion.
Kimmy's not emotional. I think she's emotional.
She is, but she's not like passive aggressive.
When I said the girls, I really meant like the original trio of this friend group, which was Harriet, Cleo, and Sabrina.
Yeah.
And so they find Sabrina at the altar where her parents got married in this place. So that's why this place holds a lot of, meaning to Sabrina. It was it's her happy place too. So after that, they get her married and it's happy again. But Harriet and Win have still not figured out their crap.
And they still haven't talked to each other, which is great. And they don't talk to each other until they're already gone. They left. Wynn's going to an airport, and
Wynn was driving back. Harriet was the one that went to the airport.
Yeah, Harriet was at the airport. Wynn was driving back. Like, it was a whole freaking mess.
They had one last night together. That's right. They slept together one last time.
I didn't think we were bringing that up.
I'm bringing that up.
I thought we were going to skip that because they didn't think anything of it.
No,
it's not like the communication came out of it.
No, but Harriet just Irish goodbyed him. She just left. Didn't even wake him up to say goodbye.
It's just
went to the airport.
Gone.
And that was it.
Gone.
And I can't remember exactly what makes her like decide to turn back. But she has like a come to self moment.
Yeah, she does.
When she realizes this isn't what she wants.
There was like a moment where she was like, "This is not my happy place." I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I remember it because I remember reading.
And the reason that she has all this time to come to this conclusion is because she got to the airport like 2 hours early. She says.
Yeah.
So.
Like, I don't know why I'm racing through the airport. There's no plane to catch, no deadline to slide under. There isn't my last chance to tell Wynn how I feel. This isn't my last chance to tell Wynn how I feel. Instead, it's the earliest moment I could possibly get to him. I don't want to miss another minute. So I barrel down the hallway through the security exit, my bag scraping along behind me. I almost smack into the sliding glass doors as they opening, then trip out onto the curb, blinking against the sun, shivering at the chill. So she's like bowling out of there.
She just has like a realization moment. Nothing really happens. She just starts thinking about it, and she realizes that Wynn is her happy place. And that she's not happy doing what she is, and that she doesn't want to pretend anymore that she's happy in her life that she has without him. So she goes back to see him, and this cliched airport trope we get.
Oh my god! Oh my god! I'm sorry. This is overdone on so many different levels.
Overdone.
It's been in every movie, every chick flick, every book.
Can I just say, as soon as it said she was going to the airport, I knew this was going to happen.
Of course it was going to happen. What else would have happened
in this book? So yeah, Wynn actually pulls up to the airport as well, and he's flabbergasted, like, can't believe you weren't going to say goodbye. What's wrong with you?
Because of course he would drive to the airport. Of course.
Of course. And, she finally talks to him and tells him, like, I hate my life.
By the way,
I'm not happy.
I don't like anything that's going. I that question you asked me, like, so long ago. Yeah, that question. Am I happy? I'm not.
I'm not.
It took me 6 days to tell you the answer to that question. Truthfully. So long.
And like after that, they go back to Montana together, and she quits her residency, and of course her parents like have a freak out.
Yeah, and she goes to do pottery in Montana. Because after being in a neurosurgeon recidency with all of the student loans,
she couldn't have found any other
our choice of job. And no shame to potters. Pottery is gorgeous. It's absolutely stunning. It's just the whirlwind of reality just throwing her off of her kilt, just being like, you know what? No to neurosurgery.
You're an amateur potterist.
Yeah, amateur pottery in Montana right now. You're going to marry this guy because instead of having a career in neurosurgery, you're going to go have a career in pottery, maybe. But you're most likely going to marry this man who's making millions of dollars off of furniture.
On tables.
They're so expensive.
Good for him, but like, and I mean, I am happy that she like didn't stick to a job that was sucking the soul out of her.
Yeah, I'm happy about that too, but also like,
part of me also wishes though, like, that they didn't get back together.
That's fair.
'Cause it was just, I don't know, I can't get over the hurdle of they spent 8 years together without talking about what they wanted in life.
Yeah, she never said she was such a people pleaser though. The whole time, like, it was her whole life was people pleasing, and then she finally realized Wynn didn't want her to people please. She just wanted her to be happy.
He wanted her to be happy for herself.
And like for me, that's what made me okay with them being together. Is like he wanted her to be happy. He didn't want her to people please. Like he never said anything about the pottery.
I'm okay with Wynn, and the fact like Wynn doesn't bother me that much. It was
It's
more just
Harriet.
well, it's not even just Harriet. It
Okay.
was just the fact that, I mean, I guess they can get over that hurdle, but it was the fact that they didn't communicate for years upon years with each other. And then
Yeah.
suddenly it was a love can conquer all
Yeah.
trope. And it doesn't matter what came before.
It is weird. It's just, I'm sorry, it's weird. And they didn't talk to each other. They said they loved each other.
Yeah.
They never like really talked to each
Yeah.
other about important topics.
But I guess they found their happiness, so that's good.
They found their
Good
happy
for
place in
them.
Bontana, Bozeman, Montana, which I've been to as well. We lived
Yeah.
very close to Bozeman.
Bozeman, yeah.
Bozeman, Montana, where we're
Her
selling
parents
expensive
were
tapes.
appalled by her decision.
Oh, like, wait till I
Flew
get
up
there.
to get her.
We'll make this decision with you. No, it's too late. I already quit.
Already left.
Already did it.
I'm already
It's done.
in Montana.
I'm gone. I'm already a potterist. Okay.
I have hundreds of
And
thousands
then they
of
come and
dollars in
visit.
debt.
They come and visit and they look at her bowls and they're like, "This one's cute," and I'm like, "Aw."
They're trying to be supportive.
Trying to be supportive. That's so cute.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, the bowl's pretty.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like that's what you say when it's really not that good. Like, oh, look at it. It's cute.
It's cute. That's how I feel about this. But
Yeah. So that's where the story ends.
Yep.
And it is a good ending. It's a, things end well.
Not bad.
Not badly. The book, though, wrapping this up, was named a most anticipated book of 2023 is what this was named.
Which is shocking to me.
I think the book was overhyped.
Oh.
I think we had a lot of expectations and it was,
yeah,
like you said, lackluster.
Yeah, it's a lackluster book. I had a lot of expectations going into this book, and maybe that is part of the problem.
I think a lot of people did, though. Like, it got an award for being a highly anticipated book, and I would say most people were a little disappointed or let down by it. Not even because it's a bad story, just it was lacking.
Yeah,
and frustrating.
I didn't feel close enough to the friend group. I felt like things like the Gladiator grocery haul and like the random like Taco Tuesday or whatever that was, the random friend aspects that they included didn't connect to anything that the story I felt like was about.
Maybe it's just the lack of communication.
Yeah.
None of the friendship felt organic or very real. It felt like a false high school friendship that you have
it felt
just
like
to keep in touch.
Yeah, I feel like a bunch of people were just pushed together and were like, "Hey, we're gonna do this fun thing, and you're gonna like doing it," and they like really don't. And they're just like, "Eh."
Yeah.
But maybe that's just how we perceived it, and that's just our opinions on the perspective of this relationship.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe this book is your kind of thing, but it definitely was not mine.
No. Same.
I would probably rate this book like a 2.5.
Oh, I was
out of 5 stars.
I was just going for a 2. Like I was.
That is generous because I even told my husband this. I told Ryan this when I was reading it, like halfway through. I said, if we were not doing this book, if I did not have to read it,
DNF.
This would have been a DNF.
DNF.
For me.
So easy, so fast.
The fact that it took 300 pages in for me to care at all was astronomically bad.
I'm sorry, Emily. I love your other books. I do. This one just
wasn't it for me.
It didn't have the romance that the others had. It didn't have the connection to the characters the others had.
The chemistry. There was no.
It didn't even have the scenery as the other ones had. Yeah. Like I felt connected.
I've only read Book Lovers, but I can't even say that.
Yeah, but I felt connected to the scenery of people we meet on vacation. The scenery was gorgeous because they were going to all of these fun locations.
There were like no side characters in this story.
No, there was no side characters.
Just the friend group and the one random pilot
and the parents.
Yeah, and that was it.
The random pilot, like, you always have this pilot? Of course I always have this pilot. And then you had the friend groups, and then you had the parents, and then that was
I think the characters I felt most connected to were Wynn's parents.
Oh my god, same. And when Hank died, I was so sad.
When you find out that Hank dies, it's like, that was like the catalyst. Because it was like, oh, I cared about them.
Yeah. And, like,
They felt real. They were the only
Yep.
characters to me that felt kind of real in this
The
book.
parents felt very real. The sisters felt like they were fine, but they were like two side character. It just there wasn't enough connection.
No.
It's just not between the reader and the book story. There was not a
Yeah.
connection. It just felt very lackluster.
It was a meh read for me that was like the one thing we told each other
Yeah.
before we discussed it was meh. That's all I have about it.
She was like, "What do you think?" And I was like,
meh.
meh. Just not great."
Yeah.
I will say Emily has done better, and if this is your cup of tea, it's your cup of tea. Drink it all as much as you want. I just, out of all of her books, it's not my favorite, and I wouldn't pick it up again. So, with that being said, I wouldn't recommend it.
I would not recommend this book.
No.
If someone asked me about it, I would say read it if you want a really frustrating read and you really enjoy the miscommunication trope.
Yeah.
If you enjoy that, then maybe you would like this book, but I don't like it, and I find it highly frustrating in this scenario because it didn't make sense.
I think my notes would be read it if you are bad at communication and you need to understand how bad you personally are from another person's perspective.
You need to understand why it's a bad thing to
So
not communicate with those
doing
close
it.
to you.
So I might give it to my husband, JK. But
Yeah.
just communicate, just talk. It's not worth 390 pages or 380 some pages to figure out just to talk. Like,
yeah.
I didn't learn anything else.
No. Like I said, it took 300 pages for me to even be remotely invested or caring. And still then, it was like barely.
I don't mean to diss on the book. Like, it's a book. If you like it, you like it. If you hate it, you hate it. It's one way or another for a lot of books. That's how it was for it's a really famous book. It's like V.E. Schwab's, but it's
The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue.
Yes, you either love or hate that book.
I've not read that yet. I want to, but I have heard a lot of things. Some people absolutely adore it, and then other people say it's the most boring thing they've ever read.
I've had a lot of friends who are like, it's a great book, and then others who are like, don't even read it. And like,
just you got to read it for yourself to form an opinion.
If you don't like our opinion, that's fine. Read it on your own, and then if you want to come back and apologize to us, we get it. But if not, that's fine. You like it, you keep that to yourself, because
I don't think many people do.
I've seen a lot who have enjoyed it and was like, this is my favorite read ever. I would reread it again. Yeah,
all of the stuff I have seen about this book has been good.
Thanks for listening to our show. We appreciate you all. Tune in next week where we will talk about our first throwback of the month, which you should be able to find on social media this Friday.
Make sure to subscribe and rate us on your preferred listening platform to join in on our weekly episodes. Also, make sure to follow us on Instagram and GoodReads at Biblio Madness for updates, reviews, and more.